Painkiller is a 2004 game by People Can Fly, and you may recognize them as the people who made Bulletstorm a few years later, but this was their first game, and was also a game released in the mid-2000s, and so it isn't exactly a pretty game. It has definitely aged, but with these kinds of arcade shooters, that doesn't matter much. You can easily distinguish who your foes are, and so what's the point in whining about what it looks like? So it's not pretty, but there are some other gripes that you can pick with the game before we get into discussing the stuff it does well. You see, the game uses that old school style mentality when it comes to level design, in that it can be a labyrinthian mess to find your way around, and so you may get lost in some of the levels. In addition, I remembered the game giving you all the guns a lot earlier than it actually did, and so I decided to just cheat for this video, because what the hell. The game is a lot better once you get all the guns anyway. And of course, there are the boss fights, some of the worst boss fights ever made, or at least in my opinion, irritating puzzle bosses that soak up damage like hell. So I cheated with them too, because fuck them. The game is best when you're far away from the bosses and just running and gunning. That's what we're going to look at, because this game has fantastic variety in its guns. So let's look at them. The Double Up Arsenal. It isn't unusual for more arcadey shooters to have guns that have primary and secondary fire options, but the secondary fire of every weapon often feels like an extension of the primary fire. You may have a shotgun blast as the primary and a powerful shotgun blast as the secondary. Not much there in terms of variety per se. Well, Painkiller doesn't go for that. Every gun has an alternate fire, and the alternate fire is essentially a second weapon. Every gun is actually two guns, and sometimes the connection makes some degree of sense. For instance, the shotgun has a regular short-range blast, like a normal shotgun, but it also has a freeze ability that makes most enemies vulnerable to a single blast. This actually becomes quite an overpowered combination. But that's the only one that really makes sense together. There's a stake gun that shoots enemies into walls, and the secondary fire is a grenade launcher. There's a shuriken firing machine gun type gun, and the secondary fire shoots lightning that chains damage to other enemies. It can also go through certain shields. Then there's a chain gun with a rocket launcher as a secondary. Both of these are rather standard fare, but together they don't make much sense. A burst fire machine gun and a flamethrower. And lastly, a different kind of stake gun that fires multiple nails, and a secondary you can shoot explosive nails. Also, that nail gun thing has an awesome reload animation. Now, some of these guns are standard fare, but the way in which the game doubles them up allows you to have a doubling of your arsenal within a smaller overall weapon set. In addition, many of these weapons are also used by certain enemies, and so you, having used them, know the strengths and weaknesses of those weapons, and so that helps you to navigate your way through the battlefield. The Painkiller. Okay, so there's Painkiller the game, and then Painkiller the weapon. And this weapon is the first you receive. It has two functions, like all the other weapons, but it serves as your ever-present melee weapon. Its primary fire is a rotating blade that slices up anyone who gets close, and the weapon never actually loses its usefulness. You can keep using that weapon throughout the game, although you may become distracted by other weapons that are also fun to use. The Painkiller does a lot more than just acting as a melee weapon though. It also has a secondary fire that shoots the blade out. This can be used as much as you want, as it never runs out of ammo. When you shoot the blade off, the melee function cannot be used, as you've just, shot the blade at someone, but it comes back instantly if you tap the button again, or if you hit an enemy. This weapon is your constant companion, and as a matter of fact, you can use the secondary fire at any time by clicking an assigned hotkey. I left mine as the default control key. So, your Painkiller is ever handy and waiting for you to use it. Berserk. The last aspect of the variety in weapons is your special Berserk ability, or as it's called in-game, Demon Mode, and you get this by collecting 66 pickups of enemy corpses. Presumably it's 66 because they were going for a 666 thing, but killing 666 enemies every time you want to use your Berserk attack may be asking a bit much of the player. Anyway, this Demon Mode is the perfect cap-off to the weapon variety. You have all your regular guns, sure, but sometimes you just want that extra push. Demon mode turns everything grayscale, and all the enemies are red, and you can't die, and you have infinite attack power. It's a nice, overpowered, climactic ability to use when you just want to destroy everything in your path. And so, you have all your regular guns, your special melee weapon, and the ever-accessible Berserk mode that will see you blowing enemies apart with each click of the left mouse button. All of this comes together into a game that gives you a lot of variety in how you circle strafe around your enemies and deal them one death blow after another. And that's just fun all round. And that's it for Painkiller.